Welcome back, everybody. So hopefully you've had a chance to watch the recent review on the IQ Tour 78U as I discussed a bit about these balls and the whole urethane drama in the PBA. Long story short, the PBA will now require all balls classified as urethane through, like a speed of oil absorption to be manufactured at 78D hardness. So as they soften in time, they never get below 73D. And as we mentioned, the USB-C will still allow 73D urethane to be manufactured. So 78D to start, 73D to start, and hence the comparison. So in this video, I'm doing the inevitable comparison of the new 78D IQ Tour 78U, as it's called, and the venerable purple hammer, which is still manufactured, like I said, to the current standard that the USB-C allows. Now I'm going to take you through my all three reviewers' tests, and I'm going to show you 10 shots, 5 with the IQ Tour 78U, 5 with the purple. Me personally, I'm going to be trying different lines to see what'll work. In my case, they're all just straight back-to-back 10 shots. So the highlight is that the purple actually hooks earlier and continues more. The IQ Tour 78U seems to really struggle to pick up at all for me unless I use some significant amount of friction, but at the same time I'm fighting the lane to find the right amount of friction. The other thing I'll mention before we get to the video is the fact that the IQ Tour 78U lane shines way faster than traditional urethane. So if you look at these here, this is just from testing, which is, well, this ball, 4 or 5 games max. This purple probably has, I don't know, 30 games since the last time I even thought about, and when I did, it made no difference. So actually, why don't we do this? I'm gonna try something live right now. This purple looks to be, I would say, about 2,000. That's what it comes out of box. The IQ Tour probably looks almost 3,000 already, and it comes 500 out of box. So I'm gonna actually dry rough both of these balls right now, but just so you understand what I'm saying, take a look at this. I think you should be able to on video see a clear difference. This is the ball, the IQ before we started testing. This is what it looks like 5 games later. That's a massive difference. So let's bring the purple back, and let's just dry rough 2,000. Okay, so I'm gonna do just now. Hopefully you can show up. Trying to get the lighting correct. Hopefully it'll show up. But I'm trying to get a nice angle there. So right here is where I dry rough 2,000. Right there is where it's not. So you can clearly see that there is a change. Now, if I did 500, which is what it came originally, right, and that's just a real quick scuff by hand, right? Now look at how rough that is compared to, look at that, 500. That's what it is now. So I guess my point here is that urethane resists lane shining. So let's just make that point. So this ball came at 2,000 and it still looks 2,000. So here, I'm going to dry rough with 2,000. Now this is what I just, above the hammer is what I just roughed up. And below the hammer is what it was. So, there is some change there, but it's pretty negligible, right? So that's the point I'm making, which is this got about 30 games on it, and maybe it picked up 500 grit, so maybe it's 2,500 now. This one went from 500 to basically 3,000 in about 5 games, right? So that is a huge change, which tells me this is probably not true urethane, but it is still manufactured 78D. It still has these sort of urethane characteristics. So let's get into the video and look at the actual shots now that I kind of given you the more technical aspects. Okay, so first shot I try, I use 7 to 4 to break point to get it going, and it just about does. Second shot is trying to use more of the track, going 10 to 7 with that IQ, and it just doesn't have any drive. The shot 3 is trying to trick it by moving further left and using more of the friction to the outside. So it's something like 9 to 6, and then actually goes high, leaving an 8 pin. Yay, 1 for 3. Shot 4, I try to execute again, and it goes through the face. So shot 5 is going back to the only line that seemed to strike, 7 to 4. But ultimately, 2 for 5, it's kind of meh. Now onto the purple, shot 1 is a bit of a miss, going 10 to 9, where I intended 10 to 7. But the surprise here is that it goes high, leaving a 6 pin rather than gliding 60 feet, which you would have seen in the original IQ Tour 78 video. Shot 2 is a very similar miss, but with a quicker release, so it kind of almost dropped it, so this one does glide more. But deflection in this case is a 7 pin as opposed to a 5 pin. Still not a strike though. Shot 3 is finally what I want, 10 to 7, leaves an 8 pin. Not very different from shot 3 of the IQ. Shot 4, I try to catch a touch more friction by going 10 to 6, and this one's just about the only perfect shot. And then you've got shot 5, 11 to 7, since shot 3 was a touch high, and I catch a light strike. So again, 2 of 5. The verdict. So from my perspective, the IQ Tour 78U was more reliable in the heavier friction, so like 7 to 4, right? So really left on the lane, as opposed to the purple hammer that worked well from 10 to 6. So, you know, with the added softness and earlier roll, the hammer is more continuous, allowing it to actually be played closer to the standard track on a house shot. Now, while I don't have a ton of strikes or either way, if I had to choose, to me, it's actually pretty clear the purple hammer definitely made me feel more comfortable. All right, so let's look at Tyler's comparison. He's playing somewhere near the 3rd arrow and looking for the break point that'll consistently hit. So it's high, light, perfect, with 3 shots that are pretty darn close. Shot 4 hits flat with a 10 pin. Shot 5 slaps the 10 out. Then shot 6 is just about a bucket. I mean, the last shot, I would say in this case, uses a little too much of the inside oil. Kind of looks like a reactive shot, or the shape of the trajectory is a little bit more reactive. It just doesn't grab anywhere. It just highlights the sensitivity of urethane on house shots. Now, the same zone with the purple, and shot 1 is a flat 10. Shot 2 is perfect. Shot 3 is a touch high. And shot 4 is telling for me. This is similar to shot 6 with the IQ78U, and instead of just floating, it actually reads enough to kick the 10 out. The main point here is those 2 shots were the ones that were floated more in the oil. Like I said, a kind of reactive trajectory, like a traditional reactive trajectory. But long story short, urethane is, I would say, far from ideal either way. Verdict for Tyler is if he had to pick, he'd also go the purple by a smaller margin, but ultimately, yeah, both are urethane reactions. Neither are ideal for the house shot. Now, let's see what it looks like for Brian. Shot 1, tries to play it in the friction, takes off. Shot 2 is 10 to 9, splits the rack. Shot 3 is 11 to 9, he still carries, albeit with no real drive. Shot 4 is 10 to 8, and it goes high. And then shot 5 is 11 to 8, and it hits flat. So it's not amazing. I mean, they're all really close shots. And you know, if you were throwing those balls with reactive, you kind of expect, I don't know, 60 to 80% strike percentage. All close, like I said, but on a house shot, you don't want safe, you want strikes. So now on to the purple, and again, first shot 10 to 8, touch high. Shot 2 is almost identical, maybe 10 and a half, and it's a trip 4 this time. Shot 3 is 12 to 8, so it moves in a little bit, hits flat. Shot 4 is 11 to 9. Brian looks disappointed, but it winds up being perfect. And then shot 5 is 10 to 8, with Brian giving, a bit too much sort of hand, if you will, and it takes off. So the purple has maybe an extra half to one board room versus the IQ Tour 78U, maybe, but ultimately it's still a urethane reaction. Now, here's where the verdict for Brian is different. He would choose the 78U by a small margin because it's actually weaker and it lets him stay closer to the friction and therefore getting more motion, whereas the purple was played a little stronger and kind of pushed him more towards the track, which risks the urethane ball not doing anything, right? So that's that. So it's basically 2 to 1, right, between the three of us. Bottom line is this: urethane can have a spot for house shots, but in our case, on this house shot, really doesn't give us enough. When people are shooting 250s, you don't need a safe pocket shot. You need to strike. Objectively, the purple is more of a true urethane, whereas the IQ Tour 78 lane shines, like we said, meaning there has to, be some reactive material in there. Whatever. I mean, with that said, as you throw it more, it's going to go longer, and just something to consider. So with a 2 to 1 margin, I have to give the nod to the GOAT, the Purple Hammer. All right. Thanks for watching. Check us out next time. If you like what we do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and check us out on Patreon.